Hello, welcome. Today we're going to talk about downward dog, downward facing dog. This is a really common pose, and if you're not doing it properly, in the best case, you're not getting the full benefit from the pose, and in the worst case, you might injure yourself. So we're going to go over some pointers on aspects of this pose that often need to be worked on. Okay, so the first thing is your hand position, and I can show you that right here. You just want to have your fingers spread out wide, not together like this, but spread out wide. And this is to take the weight off the wrist. If you see when you spread your fingers, there's a little indentation. Try it and see. There's a little indentation in your palm, in the center of your palm, and that creates a muscular lock that can hold more weight. Otherwise, when the hand is flat, oftentimes we put more weight into the wrist itself, and that can cause wrist injuries. It can cause pain or overuse of the wrist. Okay, so that's the first thing. The fingers spread out, and then when the hands are down, we want to put the weight towards the front of the hand. So again, taking the weight off the wrist, not pushing down right there at the heel of the hand, but pushing into the fingers and behind the knuckles. Okay, so we're going to set up the hands, spread the fingers out wide, and you want to have your wrists lined up under your shoulders. Okay, so you can have the proper alignment. Going from hands and knees, if you have your wrists under your shoulders and your knees under your hips, okay, there's a few exceptions. Everybody's body is put together a little bit differently, but for most people, if you're in this position and then you just turn your toes under and come straight up, straightening the legs, you'll have your hands and feet in the right spot for this pose. Okay, so a common mistake that happens is we see this bend in the shoulder. So if you're doing that, that's going to put a lot of pressure right here on the shoulder joint. So we want to straighten that out and have the wrists, shoulders, and hips lined up. And you can see there's a nice line going from the hip down to the wrist. And that means that the weight, instead of all being concentrated on the shoulder joint, it's moving back into the back. And that tension is being distributed more evenly. And you'll notice, if you can lock into this position, it's like the body is like everything just kind of coming together, everything lining up. Now, for a lot of people, it's difficult to come into this position because the backs of the legs are tight. So in that case, you would bend your knees. Okay, the legs are used to holding the body weight, no problem, but the arms aren't. So you can bend the knees and then you can come in further. Okay, so sometimes we're out here with the shoulders bent. Then we want to press the chest towards the knees. And in order to do that, if your legs are tight, just bend your knees. And that would be your down dog. And there's a couple of more things you can do to make sure that you have this right position in the upper body. So one thing is just bringing the arms overhead. So you can do this from seated or standing. You just bring your arms overhead, interlace your fingers, turn your palms up, bring the arms alongside the ears. This is pretty much, and you want to make sure that your shoulders are down, away from your ears. So this is pretty much the position of the arms. We would just have the hands apart, right, shoulder width apart. But in downward dog, you can feel when you do this, turning out of the inner elbows, how your shoulder blades turn in, and they kind of lock into place and integrate into your back there. And that helps to avoid injury there. Another way that you can practice is coming into child's pose. So if you come into child's pose and you have your arms out straight and lift your elbows off the floor. So usually in child's pose, we have the arms relaxed. We want to, in this case, have them really straight. Again, wrists lined up with shoulders. Pull your shoulders down away from your ears and roll your shoulder blades in toward your spine. So this is a nice way to practice without weight on the hands. You can feel what that's going to feel like in your upper back. So that's how you would want to have the down dog position as well. So we can just come back to it again. We're going to press the chest towards the knees, lining up wrists, shoulders, and hips. Remember, you can bend your knees to get into that position.
And then you would work over time at this pose to work to straighten the legs and bring the heels down. But it's perfectly fine to have your heels up and to have your knees bent as you're learning and starting out in this pose.
All right, so that's some tips for a better downward dog. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, share, or hit the little thumbs up button. Namaste.